won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz? My friends all drive Porsches. I must make amends.
AM 1220 KHTS, your hometown station. Carl Goldman here in the studio, along with Mercedes-Benz owner and Janis Joplin fan, Lenny Sage.
You know, that song is way too cool for me.
I know. They're both, you know, Bryce is here in the studio, and Bryce wasn't even born when Janis Joplin was around. But Bryce, if you Google Janis Joplin, you will realize that she was one of the great ones.
And you'll probably say the song is too cool for Carl and I as
Right,
well.
right, exactly.
Much cooler than us.
We just need somebody. You know, they need to bring it back. American Idol needs to be featuring the song and do a whole rendition of it that brings it into the 21st century.
Yeah.
Although I don't think anyone else could do it justice. Janis Joplin has been quite the singer. We're here talking with Lenny Sage about buying a car and the whole auto industry, and this is something that we're doing to give all of us a better idea of what to do when we go inside a dealership, both buying a new car, buying a used car. We're going to learn about the top 10 things to ask for when seeking a loan. And so we're going to dive into all those in a couple of minutes. But before the break, we were just talking a little bit about leasing versus purchasing, and you were talking about how the leasing has shifted. What are some of the advantages of leasing versus purchasing a car?
You know, some people are so predisposed against leasing. And leasing probably because they say, I don't want to rent, you know, because at the end of the lease I have nothing. You know, when I first got in the car business, I had, my father sat down with me and he showed me, he had this great little, you know, calculating machine that was programmed to do car leases and auto financing. And he showed me that if you take all of your lease payments, let's say you get a 36-month payment. You take all of your lease payments, let's say it's, you know, $250 a month, and you total up all the lease payments plus your drive-off fees at the inception of the lease, and then you add in your residual value, the amount that you could actually purchase the car for at the end of the lease, and you compare that to a purchase where you used conventional financing at a conventional financing rate at the time, and you took all of the payments, including your down payment on the purchase, and you compared the two, you're always within just a few $100s apart. And so there really isn't a big overall financial difference. Where the difference comes in is cash flow. You know, a lease typically will have a significantly lower payment, lower cash going out on a monthly basis than a purchase will. And that's why I like leasing better, because then at the end of the lease you have the option to buy the car anyway. And if you wanted to buy the car, then you know the car. It's been your car. You've had it for the last 3 years. You know the things that are good about it. You know the things that are bad about it. Maybe it hasn't been a great car for you over the last 3 years, and maybe it's something you're happy to get rid of. But maybe it's been the best car you ever owned. Now you have the option to buy it, and you're not going to be penalized financially for buying it at the end of that lease term, opposed to had you purchased the car originally.
See, now I'm the exact opposite of you, Lenny, because I am not a leaser. For me, I sit down and I compute it all out. And my two issues with leasing are, number one, I don't like the fixed mileage that you have to deal with each year, because I'm always afraid I'm going to go over that mileage. And I know that fluctuates, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So that's issue one. And then I, unlike my wife, who would love to have a new car every year, I'm the kind of guy that just I like to see how many miles I can push out on the car. So for me, I think when I did the calculation, it's been many years, but in my head, and so this is just stuck in my head, that boy, if I keep a car 2 years past the lease, then now I'm in the positive on it. Does that still hold true?
You know, I understand the way a lot of people think the way you think. As far as that, as far as the mileage, and I'll address the mileage issue first. It's a common concern, but a lot of manufacturers have what's called a flex mileage plan. If you're at the end of your first year and you said, you know, listen, I'm in trouble here. I've got a 12,000 mile a year lease and I put 14,000 miles on my car. A lot of or leasers have a flex mileage plan where you can actually purchase more miles to offset the penalty at the end of the term. For someone who likes to keep their cars for a long time, the the mileage issue won't be as impactful to your decision making because you can afford to go over the miles if your plan is to purchase the vehicle at the end of the lease. And sometimes that makes sense, because if you're going to turn in your lease and you've got a 5,000 mile penalty, and let's say it's 20 cents a mile, it's $1,000 penalty, you may decide, you know what, listen, I either got to pay them $1,000 or I can buy this great car that I've had for the last 3 years for, you know, for this amount. It might be a good decision for you to make at that time if you like the car. But what leasing does at the end of the day is it gives you the flexibility to either buy the car or turn the car in, where purchasing doesn't have that same flexibility. Although with that said, when you're about 50 to 60% through the purchase term, if you're buying the car but you're making payments every month, you're about 50 to 60% through the term, you generally are at a break-even or equity position, in which case you have that flexibility to trade the car in or sell the car and you're okay.
Right. Are you finding that most of the leases now are 36-month leases, or do they vary?
You know, no. It's funny because we've seen 33-month leases come through. We've seen 27-month leases come through. We've seen 39-month leases come through, 42-month leases come through. So it depends really. What the lenders are starting to do, and they're driven by the manufacturers, is they're trying to identify what is the pipeline of lease returns that we have coming in, and we want to kind of fill that pipeline to where it's steady throughout the year. So maybe Mercedes-Benz, for instance, may look at what's going to be coming in 36 months from, or in 33 months from now, and they're going to say, you know what, we don't have a lot of cars coming back off lease in 33 months, but we have a ton coming back in 36 months, so let's put an incentive out there for a 33-month lease. And let's, you know, and the incentive might end up giving you a little lower of a payment than the 36-month lease to incentivize you to get into that 33-month lease. So we're starting to see a little more flexibility with lease terms, which is an interesting question, because it's something that's kind of more of a nuance over the last couple of years that we're starting to see.
We've got to take a short break. We're talking with Lenny Sage, owner of Mercedes-Benz of Valencia, and we are going to, when we come back, in fact, I pulled this from CNN. It's right now, it's CNN's top 10 questions that you need to know before you walk in to see Lenny or any other car dealer before buying a new car. So I'm going to hit you with those top 10 questions.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
This is AM 1220, your hometown station. We'll be right back.